And I do want to go into some quarterback news very, very quickly. First with Alex Smith. I mean, I read this yesterday and I found it really interesting. He said in an interview with GQ, I believe, that he said his unlikely return put a wrench into the Washington football team's QB plans. And the team has said that they're exploring all options. I mean, if they would cut Smith, they do save $14 million. So I don't know if that's something that they were willing to do. I mean, I know that they're kind of in on the Watson rumors and that type of stuff, but I feel like Smith, I think he was 5-1 last year, kind of looked good. I mean, I believe he had more picks and touchdowns, but to me, that team was winning games and he was facilitating that offense nicely. Do you keep him for another year? I mean, Ryan, we'll start off with you, or do you try to find either someone in free agency, the draft, maybe a trade? I mean, but to me, I think you keep with Smith.
Yeah, this was like really interesting, this interview he gave, because he seemed, he was a definition of inspiration last year. He overcame so much. And at the same time, the team didn't have to activate him off the PUP list. That they had to pay him more money because of what they did. So for him to say he wasn't wanted by the organization, obviously I'm not inside the organization. He has every right to feel that way. But from the outside, it looks like they really gave him a shot out there. And Heineke also, at the same point, to give him credit, he was just better than Alex Smith, right? We saw in that playoff game the way he was able to move out of the pocket in ways that Alex Smith would not be able to do. I'm honestly shocked that you said they should roll with Smith another year. You can save $13 million.
5-1.
5-1, but 12 touchdowns, 5 picks. You have an elite defense, and every football team fan I know, this is where you have to capitalize, right? You have a stacked young defense. You have a great young core. You don't want to blow it whiffing on a QB this year. Bringing in a 1 year older Alex Smith back, I don't know how smart that is when you can save $13 million by cutting him. If I were them, I would let him go. I would explore your options in the draft. I would look at, try to get cued elsewhere, but I don't think it's worth it to possibly tank another year. What is your ceiling with Alex Smith? It's not going to be winning playoff games and getting far in the playoffs. You have a defense that's good enough to win a Super Bowl. So I don't think you want to go into a season with a low ceiling as your quarterback. You got to go for it. Alex Smith, he did a great job there. He was an inspiration, as I just said, but I think his time there has passed. I think they should be looking on to somewhere else.
This is just such a tough one for me because how could you not love Alex Smith, his story, everything about him? But Ryan, you might be right in terms of kind of what's best for the team. It might be worth moving on from him because the defense, again, stellar, and Alex Smith is a great leader, but the skills is 100% diminishing, and he's not what he used to be. Of course, part of that is from the injury, but he made a great comeback. But at the end of the day, too, with this team, they're young and they're trying to move forward. With Smith, you're right. The ceiling is first-round exit in the playoffs if they can make it in arguably the most competitive division in the NFC East. I'm not sure who I would get if I was them, though. Obviously, if you can make a move for Deshaun Watson and don't, I think you're crazy. But through the draft, I'm not sure what they can do. It's a very iffy sort of question. I don't think you can necessarily go wrong, even if you bring him back. They re-signed Taylor Heineke. I don't think he's necessarily the future, but he showed some promise in that playoff game against Tampa. But, if you bring Alex Smith back, I guess you can kind of, as that Redskins front office, think of more things during the season, depending on how he plays, seeing if you got to sit him, start Heineke. Maybe you use 1 year as a buffer, but I think you go for it, like you said, Ryan. I think you get rid of Smith, sadly, and look for something better in a different direction.
My thing is that, who are you replacing him with? Because at this point, unless you're getting Deshaun Watson, in the draft, they picked 19th, so it doesn't look like they're going to get any of the top guys. I think even Trey Lance will be gone by then. And then you're kind of with Mac Jones, who, I don't think he's really right now like the 19th pick. I know there's a lot of hype around him. You had, I believe Devonta Smith said that he thought Mac Jones was better in an interview, which I thought was really interesting than Tua. So that was something that was interesting, but I don't think that Mac Jones, you're going to start him year one and he's going to be better than Alex Smith. I don't think that. And who are you bringing him from free agency? And Marcus Mariota, didn't start last year. Jameis Winston didn't start last year as well. Ryan Fitzpatrick, or whoever you're bringing in here, they're not better than Alex Smith, or maybe they're just as good as Alex Smith. And that's something where I'm looking at, then you're still going to have to pay Smith something. And with quarterbacks, they're so pricey because, you're saving $14 million. Can you find another quarterback that's better under that $14 million? To me, I just don't think so.
you as a Saints fan telling me you think that Alex Smith and Jameis Winston are similar hurts. I'm not going to lie, it hurts. Yeah, obviously that's a fair point. What are they going to do upgrade wise? You don't have to stay at 19. You can trade up, right? I really like what they like. Chase Young was the pick there. They obviously needed a quarterback, but you couldn't pass on his talent. So no one says you have to stay at 19. I think it's really interesting with what you do. But as I said earlier, with this defense, I don't want to go into a year where your ceiling is first round exit. So I would move on personally from Alex Smith, maybe bring him back as a backup. But it looks like looks like he's not going to be going back to Washington if it's a backup role. Yeah. So if you have to move on, so be it, and get creative, or either with a trade. There's a ton of guys around the league. Maybe you could pry Jared Goff away. He doesn't seem like the long-term solution. I don't know. But for the football team, that defense is good enough to win big in this league. So I would act now. I would not waste another year with that defense and go get a quarterback any way you can.
I mean, to me, you talk about Jameis Winston. I don't know what Jameis does in that offense. I mean, maybe they have a few young pieces, but I think Jameis' saving grace is going to be Sean Payton and what he does there. And I mean, I know that Washington has some good weapons. Terry McLaurin, I think, is a great wide receiver. They have Gibson as well, but they're no Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, that offensive line. That's just what I'm thinking here.